Cool. After me talking, I will now hand over to Elaine. She has full control, and she will talk us through say how to grow our businesses. And yeah, I'll leave it to
Great.
Elaine. Off you go, Elaine.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you, Rob. I don't think I've ever heard you say to me, you have full control ever in my life. And yes, I think
Yes.
we first met when you played football with my husband back in the late 80s, early 90s, that kind of
It
time
it
frame.
was. It
So
was. Yeah.
yeah, a long time ago. So yeah, early 90s. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for having me here today. What I'd like to do is give you a little taster around some things, but I want you to also think about kind of what, as we're talking through things, what kind of things are important to your businesses, because I think that you'll be at different stages of where you're at. You'll have different aspirations for your business. So Michelle, I love that you have a very clear vision for how you want to grow and the kind of the scale of the business that you want to have. I don't know if others of you have that kind of clarity around the vision, around what you want to do with your business. So some of the things that I'll say may not kind of resonate or sit comfortably with you now. But I will say these I found these kind of sessions much more interesting when people ask questions and it becomes a little bit more interactive. So I get to hear a little bit more about where you're at and the sort of things that you're particularly interested in. Because quite honestly, so I've been in data and analytics since, well, forever, really. When I was a small child, we used to have, and this is back in the 70s, we used to have, if any of you remember this, the tin, and it was an actual tin, not plastic tub, of Quality Street. And I used to tip at Christmas, we'd have this, it was a special treat. And I would tip out all the sweets onto the floor, and then I would organize all the sweets in color order and see which ones there was most of. So I've always had that kind of analytical and data mind. Maths was one of my favorite subjects at school. So I could literally talk about data and analytics for quite a long time. And I don't want to do that today without kind of hearing a little bit from you as well, so that I give you some valuable information that you can walk away with. So I would say if you get only one thing from this session, understand if you get your data structure right at the start, it gives you a really good scalable and sustainable foundation for what you do in the future, because it helps you understand your customer profile, it helps you understand your market, it helps you understand, if I have another pound to spend, where's that going to be most effective from a marketing perspective. So in the same way that you have an accountant to do your finances, so you understand your financial data, and that's really telling you what's happened already in your business. That's describing the past. Your data can allow you to have this predictive view of, like, okay, well, if that worked really well, if I do more of that, then I'm likely to get this kind of growth in my business. So it's kind of it's using the data in a smart way to take it from descriptive to predictive in what you do. So that's, if you remember only one thing, remember getting it right from the start gives you that scalable foundation that you can move forward with as well. Um, if you do only one thing after this, then I would suggest one of two things, depending on how you like to work. Number one, on my website, skylarkcoaching.co.uk, and I'll send this out on the WhatsApp group, so you've got all the contacts, if that's okay. Rob gave me full control, so I'm going to say it's okay. I'm going to do it. So I would connect with me on LinkedIn and just let's continue the conversation. I've also posted a series of articles on there that go a little bit deeper into some of the things that I'll talk about today. And if you like to do a little quiz, a little survey on my website, then there's a diagnostic, and you can just sort of think about the structure of where you're at and how, what you're finding particularly challenging. And that could be the doorway to us having a little bit more of a conversation around that. And like I say, I've always done data and analytics, so I'm always really happy to talk about it as well. So we can find a way to make that happen. Okay, so I do have some slides. I guess the final thing I would say is data doesn't have to be scary. And I think sometimes, so with some clients that I've worked with, they've said, we started the conversation and talked about what their vision is for their business. And I said, what do your data tell you? And it's kind of a look of fear crosses their face, like, oh, I don't know, And I think sometimes we have this kind of fear around data. Maybe it's because we didn't like maths at school or for whatever reason, but it doesn't have to be scary. And sometimes it's, just having somebody to hold your hand and guide you through some of that can make it feel a lot more accessible and more impactful for your businesses as well. So let me see if I can share my screen properly. Okay, right, this is the first test. Share. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yep, all done.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm just going to put it onto slideshow. And hopefully that works. Okay, the little circle's going round. Tells me it's doing something. But it doesn't seem to have done a lot. I've got
It's
to be honest.
yeah, this is the pain of
Okay.
Zoom. Try it again,
Okay.
Elaine. Try it.
So yeah, we won't worry too much about it. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yep, done.
Okay, okay. So I'm going to kind of dip in and out of some of this content, but please, I can't see you all on my screen now. That's another beautiful thing of like when you do these screen sharing things. Maybe I can. Oh, I can see you all now. Yeah, I've just made you all bigger. So if there is anything, just chime in with any questions, or if anything like, okay, that doesn't make sense, or actually, can we get deeper into that? Okay. Like I say, it's a lot more interesting for me if I'm not just hearing my own voice. So I love these facts because it's some of the things, and some of these will be depending on the size of the company that you're working in, then, and kind of thinking about future things as well, just how much data isn't used efficiently or effectively. And this isn't just oh well, it feels that way, it seems that way. All of the companies at the bottom are leading analytics companies, leading consultancies. They've all done different studies around this, and they're all saying pretty much the same thing. A lot of it is wasted because it's not used in a efficient or effective way, or there is so much of it that it's really difficult to find the stuff that you're looking for. So it's kind of back to that, what are you trying to do with the data, and that can just help you figure out what data you have and then how you can use it. So then again, data isn't magic, but it is about being disciplined and getting that foundation, making it scalable and sustainable for you to use in the future. And the way that we think of this, if you think about your sales process, you probably have a scalable process. You think about where do you get you've got targets, you might have prospects, you've got pricing and product, you have certain systems in place around sales. And in a lot of these places, data impacts these processes as well. If you think about your product mix, if you think about your pricing, then data are foundational in that. So you need to get that right so that you're making good decisions based on good data. So when we think about this, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have like your financial system, accountancy, you have your balance sheet. So yeah, I understand what I've done. So that describes where I've been, and then I've got this other view of the data, all the rest of the data that's going to help me predict the future. And this is what I call my data clarity framework. And you'll notice that the very first place you start isn't anything to do with the data. It's about your business vision. So again, Michelle, when you talked about having that vision, like we're going to be as big as Fortnum and Mason, that's amazing to have that kind of clarity of thinking around that. So then it's thinking about, well, how do I get there? How are my data going to support me getting there? A lot of the time, I've worked with with different companies, and they say, oh, the quality is rubbish, the data are rubbish. But that's not the true picture. It's about what they're trying to do with the data or how they understand it that make the difference to what they're that quality thing, the perceived quality. Now, Rob, I can see you're highlighted green. Does that mean that you have put your hand up?
No,
Okay,
no, don't worry. It's just
okay,
Zoom. It's not a very good program.
all
No,
right,
no,
okay.
ignore that.
All right, cool. Is this so? Let me just take a little quick a pulse check. Is this making sense? Is this kind of resonating?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I think yeah. It's just
definitely.
so far,
Yeah.
Elaine. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Because like I say, I don't want to go. I don't want to just go boom and overload or overwhelm with anything either. But I just kind of give you a taster of some of these things as well, and perhaps some of the questions that you can start asking yourself around it, because that can help you figure out and again, the diagnostic as well, which accessible through my website, that can help you figure out, well, I've got my business vision. I'm really clear on what that is. I know what my data are. I don't know how the data sit with the system. So I need to understand that. So I'm always looking at the right piece of data for making a decision. Okay. Let me go on. Okay. We talked a lot about this. If you're running your own business, you've got to be jack of all trades. You've got to do a lot of different things. So time is money. So saving time, saving money, getting better, getting faster decisions, accelerating that decision making progress is going to help you in the long run. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to start obviously with the business vision, because without that business vision, you are driving without knowing your destination. You're in your car and you don't know where you're going. So this is so starting with that, with the end in mind, defining your outcomes, what you're looking for, and that vision drives the data that matter for you. So what you're going to look for with your data. So what does that mean? What do we mean by data? Well, let me ask that question out. So if I ask you, what did data mean to you? You'd like to offer, and there's no right or wrong, by the way.
Well, I work as a social worker, but I'm a manager, and we have to get data about whether the kids are being seen and stuff like that. And I know that that data is important because I know exactly how many times they've been seen, when assessments are due and stuff like that. I suppose now, having my own business, it's about how do I transfer those skills into my own business, and ask the question, define the goals, look at what my outcomes are going to be. But yeah, I hated maths, unlike you.
Oh, then we're going to make a good team.
I hated maths, but I did really well when I went to college. I hated maths at school,
Yeah,
but when I went to college, they taught it differently and it made sense.
yeah,
So when I was at school, I didn't learn formulas. I didn't know what they were talking about. I just knew how to add, take away, all the rest of it. But that was it. And then I went to college and it opened up a whole different world of maths. But still, as much as I like it, I'm still a little bit challenged by it
yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't understand it. It doesn't come naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, do you know what, Michelle? That's really interesting, because I think at school it's like everybody's got to reach the same level and it's quite abstract, the formulae. It may not surprising, would you know, I still remember some of those formulae because that's the kind of mind that I had for it. I
Yeah,
mean, I can't tell you that knowing that sine is opposite over hypotenuse has ever been useful in my real world life, but it might come in useful one day. You never know. So, but yeah, it's that kind of abstract nature of it that makes it quite tricky, I think. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts? Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts
that's no
anybody wants
problems.
to share?
See,
Okay.
if you look at with your data,
Yeah,
obviously, take your books and stuff and you can go back over time and have a look at your obviously your past accounts. Okay. I mean, should part of that data, I do try and tell the people is that you should also look at not just the data you've got your prices, but look at individual items from stamps, everything, because all this stuff equates to your profit margin. And what you might find is you're spending a lot more you thought on envelopes and packaging than you did, and your prices aren't quite right to cover it. Is there a way where you can sort of like compile that data into a simple, I don't know, spreadsheet, or as a sort of like a program you can use to pull it all out and actually bring it all forward to see whether or not you're on the right sort of like track?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that, are you asking me or are you asking
Yeah,
Michelle?
yeah, I'm asking
Yeah,
you, Elaine. Yeah,
me. Is there a way to do that?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if there's a way to automate that kind of pulling the information out, but there's absolutely a way to, yeah, and that's in fact with a client who I worked with, they gave me access to their data, and that's exactly what we did. I just pulled out the information that was relevant for the questions that we needed to answer and built those trends over time. So yeah. Yeah.
I
Building a
like. It'll
spreadsheet.
be.
Oh yes.
I mean, it'd be just. I just wonder. Look at the group.
Yeah.
I know this is the leading question normally, Elaine. How many of them have actually sat down and done the numbers and got the data and actually looked at it backwards properly? Because oh, that sounds odd. You've got to look backwards and see what you've done to go forwards to see how you can grow. About that, without those fundamental numbers, you really can't say whether or not you're properly in profit, can you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of doing that backwards view absolutely informs how you go forward. Yeah, and changes you can make.
Okay.
So I guess that's partially leads into the next piece, which is doing your data inventory, which is knowing what gaps you need to fill. So you've got your vision, you can look back, you've got all your history as well. So what do you have? What do you need? And just thinking about, and I love this kind of concept, not all data are created equal. So some data will be really, really important to you, and some data are like, meh, they can sit in the 70% that I'm not going to use, that by and large companies don't use, because not every piece of data is going to be significant. You don't want to remember every piece of information over time. But the fundamental question to ask yourself is, do you trust your data when it comes to making the decisions you need to make for your business? And if you don't, then this is probably a place to start, just understanding what they look like, what you have, what you don't have, what do you need. Linked to that is that, so if you think about, you've got your, say, Michelle, you talked about in social work, you've got the children, you've got the times, the sessions, how frequently they're contacted. So you have those individual pieces of data, but they're also connected so that you know who does what when and where and everything else. So that lineage map, which shows you, that unlocks how the data talk to each other and flow through the system. This can be the biggest challenge sometimes, because it's really understanding where the data sit in different systems, and sometimes how they transform as well. And this is, I've seen countless times. Let me just do I'm just going to do a quick test with everybody, okay? And this is about understanding. This isn't a trick question, I absolutely promise you. But I'm going to say one word, and I want you immediately to think of another word and shout it out, okay? You're unlikely to say the same word. I'll just say that, okay? So the word, and if you want to come off mute so you can do it, that would be great. Just give people a moment to do that. Okay, so the word I'm going to give you is apple.
Pear.
Apples, oranges,
I was gonna go pear as well. Apple, pear,
Yeah.
pear.
oranges.
Excellent. So different words, one word, and so for some responses I've got to that: juicy, crunchy, red, green, phone, computer, Mac, another piece of fruit, all kinds of different things. That's one word. That's one really simple word. So if you think about that in the context of data, think about something like client retention, then you've got potential for a lot of ambiguity and miscommunication and misunderstanding if things aren't clearly understood where they are and how they sit in the different systems, and they're called by sensible names that aren't duplicated. Okay. Any thoughts anybody would like to share? Is it making sense?
It is. It is. I think the question that's quite good, because I think a lot of the times when you talk to people, especially if you're, one of the things I find really infuriating is clients that insist on typing messages to me, which I don't understand. I mean, I actually tell them I'm dyslexic and I hate reading things. I really don't like reading things. And the problem is I can read the same word 5 times and get 5 different answers. Okay, so for me, it's really important that I speak to somebody and get them to explain what they want, exactly what they want. Otherwise, I would do the polar opposite of what they're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's great to have that self-awareness, that self-knowledge, so that you can communicate to other people. Here's how I learn, or how I want to be, how I communicate, how I understand. Yeah.
I find it also quite tricky when we are in our mind and when we say something, which I'm not talking about technical stuff. When we say, yeah, but this is so clear as day, so logical, and the other person still can't get it, so it has a different meaning to them, and it's difficult to kind of put myself in the other person's shoes, why they don't understand.
Yes. Yes, that's brilliant. There used to be a guy who I worked with, and I used to be very open with him and say, Kevin, when I talk to you, it feels like we're at opposite sides of the dance floor. And then we gradually kind of unpack the conversation, and we move to the middle of the dance floor where we both see the kind of the other perspective. But those different perspectives can be, well, challenging to navigate, shall we say.
But then, you know, if it happens on a regular basis with someone, that means you have I don't know, different set of values, or I don't know, because if it's a barrier language, then if it's a one-off, okay, but if it happens regularly with someone, that means you can't really work as a team efficiently.
Yeah, there's so you might be interested on my website under the free tools. There's a piece that I put together around analytical tools, which help. There's some of the things that help people, like individuals, be self-aware about those things, but you can use some of those as well in teams. And they, again, I used to work with a guy called Tom, and Tom and Jack, and I would be so frustrated dealing with them because I'm like, come on, we've got to do this. And we just kind of were opposite, so like Kevin, opposite sides of the ballroom. Maybe it's me, I don't know. But we did this social styles activity, and I realized they were polar opposite to me. And I just went, oh, well, that's why they're not interested in talking to me about their weekends. They just want to know what I'm doing to get the job done. Okay. And my instinct was to say, hey, how you doing? Let's talk and kind of be friendly. And that's not what they needed. So that completely changed the way I communicated with them, which was that was eye-opening. Yeah. And to me, it's all data analytics.
So you understood them, but did they understood you? Because it really should ideally it should go both ways.
Well, exactly. So yeah, we could have a long conversation about that.
Yeah.
All right, but again, it's kind of using the data points kind of in a similar way. So we talked about business vision, we've talked about knowing what data you have, what you need, we talked about how they come together, so how they flow. What's really important then is, and this is a word that scares some people, it's not scary, it's there to help you. It's not there to restrict or limit, but the governance ledger. And that's where you get clarity around that, what are the right things to do with the data? Who has decision rights? And I've called out this particular word, ownership, because ownership is something really, really important around your data. And particularly around, if you think around your customers, who can change the customer data? How can it be deleted? How does it get changed, updated. But the company that I worked at, a multi-billion-dollar company, this question of ownership around who owns specific data points was a really difficult one to answer. And it was not something, it was really hard. We got some clarity around some pieces of data, but a lot of the time there were more questions than answers around it. And it tended to be, oh, hey, why don't you talk to Matt, because he's been here a while and he might know, or Sam might know because she's been in here quite a long time. So it was more about who you knew rather than having proper processes around things, proper governance. So governance is there to protect and to, again, as a foundation for that scalability and sustained process that will kind of give your data legs into the future. So I don't think that scared anybody too much, which is quite good, actually. I'm happy about that. Got a little story for you now. So this is, I was working with an events business. They were looking to expand geographically. And when we looked at their data, one person said 53, another person said 72. So how are we going to resolve this? So we looked back at the, and 53, so it wasn't those symbolic numbers, they weren't actual numbers. So we looked back through, took the thing, we had the vision, we knew what we wanted to do, we had the data. But when we got to the lineage map, that identified different transformations that were happening to the data. So you were ending up with, in fact, 2 different numbers for the same piece of data. So it had the same naming, but it was being transformed, though the calculations behind it were being done in a different way. And then when we got to the governance ledger, then there wasn't clear data ownership. So anybody could do anything to it. Oh, do you know what? I'll just change that transformation and we'll make it right, don't worry. So again, by sort of unpacking and working through the different stages, we were able to clearly see what needed to happen in order to bring the data into alignment. And then when you have that, you're not spending 80% of your time debating the data, you're spending 80% of your time figuring out what you're going to do about it. So you're spending much more meaningful time, and your intellectual power and your expertise and knowledge are making those better decisions for your business, not worrying about kind of where the data are from. Okay, I'm going to hit big topic next. Hope you're ready for it. Data quality. And data quality is one of those things, I think, that people say, oh, and it's like the sky is falling. The data are rubbish. They're all wrong. Oh no, it's terrible. But what does quality actually mean? Quality means that, in terms of how you're using data in your businesses, how confident are you in the data behind your decisions? Can you understand if something changes, why it's changed? So if I push this red button, does the green triangle move? That kind of thing. And if you have 2 reports that are in conflict, which do you trust? And how does that decision get made? So ultimately, when you think about your data, they have to be fit for the purpose for which you intend to use it, and you need to trust that they're fit for that purpose. So that means it's not about saying, well, it needs to be 65% correct, because what does that actually mean? That might be perfect for a guidance, like, well, I'm just looking for a general trend, so I just need to know if it's going up or down. I don't need to know if it's 65 or 67. I don't need a degree of precision. Now, if you're a salesperson calculating commissions, you probably want the information to be penny perfect, because that person's going to get quite emotional, perhaps, about anything that's wrong with the sales numbers. So, and again, it's a question of balance with the data, because some things, if we look at kind of that bottom left piece, data quality is multidimensional. If we use an email address as an example, have you got an email address for this client? Yes. Okay, great. Is it valid? Is it an at gmail.com or yahoo.co.uk? Yes, it is. Is it recent? Has it been updated recently? Well, yeah, they joined like 3 months ago, that's fine. But you can have things that are complete. So I did a little like silly test on this. So I made up an email and it looked complete, it looked valid, it was recent, but it wasn't accurate because it was completely made up and there wasn't a real email of that name. So it's that kind of what's the value of the data and how easy is it to collect for you, and balancing those two things together. Okay. Has anybody come across Hippo before in terms of, that last question, when two reports conflict, which do you trust, what drives your decision? People familiar with Hippo?
Never heard that term before, ever,
No.
Elaine.
Okay. So Hippo is it's not necessarily the loudest voice, it might be. Hippo stands for the highest paid person's opinion. So that's where you just look to that, well, if you're the CEO or the MD, then we'll go with what you say because you must be right. And to your point, Rob, where you said right at the start, you just got to know a little bit more than somebody else. That positional power doesn't necessarily mean that they know the answer. They know better than anybody else.
Oh no, I used to have a boss, and if you rely on the boss to do something for you, I used to say to him that he was promoted to above his level of incompetence, where he knew barely enough to make him sound clever, but he wasn't at all. He didn't know what he was doing, basically, but he sounded like he did. And so you take advice from someone who sounds good, but no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So can have another little story now. This is another client I worked with where they had the most, and this is the danger. People go, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's a beautiful dashboard. It looks great. Those analytics look brilliant. But when you scratch the surface of some of these tools, then the data underneath was unstable. So it was beautifully laid out. The CEO was like, this is great. Yes, let's do this. But the instability of the data underneath meant that the data weren't understood, they weren't clearly defined. So it became very apparent that the governance ledger, in terms of the ownership and the clarity of the rules around the data, were compromised. So getting that clarity in place meant that people could then look at the dashboard, the analytics, with confidence because they understood what was happening with the data. And I've literally seen people do that, take a very funky, colourful, sexy dashboard to the CEO who's gone, oh yeah, that's brilliant. And then they've not been able to follow through with it. It's a dangerous place to be. Okay. So then let's talk a little bit analytics. So analytics is where we want to be, really, because we want to really understand how the data are driving the decisions that we have in business. So one of the key questions around this to ask yourself is, as a result of the analytics that you're creating, what will I change as a result of this insight? And how is that helping me fulfill my business vision? So in effect, this isn't a sequential, okay, well, I've done that. Okay, now I've got to that. Now I can move on and forget all the rest of it. It becomes almost like a circle, like a process, because once you've got the analytics, they're feeding back into your vision. Are they helping you achieve it? Do I need to amend it? Do I need to update it? Do I need to be looking at different data because the analytics aren't telling me quite what I expected them to tell me? But this is where it should tell the story of what's really happening with your business as well. Okay. So talked a lot about data, and a lot of this is about process. We mentioned systems a little bit, but I think it's probably helpful to make a comment on that generally, because none of these things here depend on a specific technology. Technology will change all the time and it will continually evolve. I love this quote from James Clear: "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is a habit." So if we're repeatedly being disciplined about our data, then we're going to drive the right behaviors with it, because we'll be eyes on it and making sure that it's doing what we want it to do. The technology will change, but it's the discipline in using the system that will deliver the value and create the value for you. So CRM, I don't know if any of you guys have a customer relationship management system. There are plenty of them out there that you can use to manage your business. I mean, there are free ones as well. Rob, I should throw it to you.
All right, now
all
CRM
of the free
systems,
ones.
personally, being the person I am, I think a lot of them for small, especially small businesses, are too much, Elaine. So believe it or not, being me, I actually use a system, and it's actually called the Less Annoying CRM Panel.com. Okay, and
That
it's
sounds
literally,
very you, Rob, if I can say that.
it's stripped out. For small business owners, what we sometimes do is have too much stuff to feed in when we don't really need all that much data. And I looked at it and goes, what do I need as a business? And I found a system that fitted my business, not a system that's got so many bells and whistles on it. I might
Yeah.
use them if I'm Google, but
Yeah.
for day one, it's too much. So there are some good ones out there, and I would say when you're looking at them as you grow,
Yeah.
you'll know when you need them. If you're really tiny, if you can name all your clients top of your head, you don't really need
Yeah.
one at that point, do you, Elaine? But if you find that you're getting more than you can remember, that's you need to sort of look at what you do, but don't go on what you think you need. Really look at them,
Yeah.
what they do, functionality, and if you are be putting in some of the data as well, because you can put that in that will help you go forward. Find the right one. Spend a lot of time. That it's going to be with you for a long time going forward. If it's wrong for you when you start, you then got to move it on. It can be quite a challenge.
Yeah, exactly right. So I love that. I love what it was called. I've forgotten the
Less annoying CRM panel.
lesson. So I love that. But equally, yeah, I have spreadsheets. So I have a spreadsheet, and I use that as my prospecting, so as my pipeline, and to tag things. I could automate some of that. I could find a tool to automate it. But like you say, I don't need to do that because I don't have a gazillion people to worry about or clients to worry about at this point. So yeah, whatever works. And you made a really good point there as well, Rob, that your process and business should determine the technology that you have, not your technology determining your process. Because if you do it that way round, technology determining your process, it's not going to work, because ultimately it's not how you're running your business.
No, because we're told tech people like to oversell you tech items.
Yeah, because they get really excited about it, I guess. And then you pay them lots more money.
Yes, that is the key. It's the how much you've got to pay them to build it or maintain it is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that rolling I can't think, like license fee. Yeah. So this has been a fairly kind of high level dip into some of the areas in the data clarity framework. This is, I mentioned this at the start, this is what I would suggest and propose for you guys in terms of thinking about where you go next from here. So I've got on the website, and you can use this QR code to get to the website. I was very proud of adding that into the presentation. I just want you all to know that. And then start thinking about, can you state your business vision? What are your critical data points? And if there's a point where it's like starts to tip over to that, oh, I'm not quite sure, that's a bit of a challenge, then let's connect. Let's talk about it, because that's possibly where I can help you navigate some of those questions that you might have. And also, something that I love to do is learning about other people's businesses. So data might be the kind of the glue that holds everything together, but I've worked with so many different types of companies now that that's exciting to me to find out. I get very curious. I ask lots of questions, I just warn you. And I love that, because I love finding out about how different businesses work. So And remember, at the end of the day, the data aren't going to drive your decisions. You are going to do that. People make the decisions. So it's important that you've got the right material and, you know, good data to make good decisions. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you, Anne.
So,
Thank you.
right, guys, obviously, this is a new subject for most of us because what we, as business owners, there's one thing we do very well. We jump into business assuming we know what we're doing when everything else in life, everything you've been taught what to do. Okay. And we jump on board and there's elements we miss out on, of which if we try and pick it up later on, it becomes a hindrance because we didn't know we did it early. If you do these things now, when your business is in its infancy, you'll take it through a standard as you move forward. If you try and retro do it later on as you've grown and try and do it backwards and stuff, it causes major problems because you're so big. It's very difficult. So I'll definitely say, Elaine, can you post a link into the WhatsApp?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I could do that. I can't work out how to unshare my screen, and I'm probably just being silly. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So here we go.
Unshare. How do I unshare?
Let me have a look. 1 second. Can I I know I can't
Where
take
you,
off you either. There should be a way, Elaine. Trust me.
where you click on share, just click again and it's gonna unshare.
Okay.
It says share. It's not letting me unshare.
I
If
know,
you
and I
click
can't.
again, it should be activated, right?
Yeah, it should, Elaine. It should allow you to
Can it not do it when you go up to where it says where you're
on the
sharing
green
the
button. If
screen
you click the up
on
on
the
the green
green
button, there's a
button?
little up arrow, Elaine. Click on that. It should bring up a little toolbar, and there it should say unshare.
Okay.
Watch this. What we're going to do is
Share. No, it
watch
just
this.
says share. I'm not seeing an unshare.
Okay, what I'm going to do is if I can,
You can still
I
share.
can, yeah, I'm going to steal the share. Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to steal the share. Give me a moment. Let me steal the share, and then I unshare it. Give me
There
a
we
second.
go.
Right, guys, give me a second. Stop sharing. Right, there you go. Right,
There we go.
boom.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you want me to put in the chat?
Oh no, in the chat. No, don't in the chat. In the actual WhatsApp group, Elaine.
Oh, in the
Post
WhatsApp
it into,
group.
yeah, and then everyone can get a link to it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, guys, any questions on data? And that's an odd one because it's something you don't normally look at. Okay. One of the things we'll ask you is as an exercise, Elaine's got a link. Go to that link and just read what to do, and it will walk. I assume, Elaine, it will walk them through what to do.
Yes. Yeah. It's basically a Google form. It has various statements. You rank them 1 to 4, and then you know it will get you thinking about where you are with your data and how you think about your data. And I think that will be that, you know, that could be a good start for any then subsequent conversation. And that what I'll do as well, I'll post my LinkedIn profile, and then you can connect
Do
on
that.
there. And yeah,
And then,
I'll do all that stuff. Yeah. I also use Calendly for scheduling. So if any of you want to have a call separately and talk through some of this, then find a time that's mutually convenient for us, and we can have that half-hour conversation.
because remember, guys, knowledge is power. The more you know about your business, what it's doing around you, the better you can grow that business. Okay. Also, remember, there's that as business owners, we're supposed to spend at least an hour a day, and the term they use is working on your business, not working in your business. This sort of thing is what you should be doing in an hour a day. So you're working on items that are going to basically help you grow your business in the future, okay? Because you need to future-proof the business. Okay, Crystal, have fun on the way
Thanks,
home.
Crystal.
Okay,
Thanks for joining.
with that as well, and it really does help. I mean, but just for Christmas, guys, I'll get everyone. I did say to everyone, try and do your yearly plan. Okay. Now we did a 5-year plan in front of us, and that 5-year plan has already changed in the first month of the year. Because things move so quickly, but it gave us an idea of where we had to be at the end of the year, and it made us look at what we needed to do to get there. Okay. And all the data we compiled from last year, we put into this plan, what's going forward, but and enabled, and it gives you, it focuses you on where you need to be. A lot of it's focus, guys, as business owners. If you don't know your numbers, your business could be slipping away from you. You literally don't, you just don't know it. So, any particular questions, guys? Okay, I think you've frayed all their brains, Elaine.
Well, I
No,
know.
you
So
haven't. What I was about to say, Elaine, thank you. I'm busy because I took the picture of the QR code and I thought it was really cute and
oh,
that. And
thanks.
I'm just I'm just sitting here doing answering the questions.
Oh, I love you. Thank you. Good. Well,
Um,
and it's about helping you to think about, what do where is it sticky for me? Where do I get stuck thinking about this stuff? And it might be you're not going to be stuck on your business vision. I know that for a fact because you're very, very clear on that. But it might be so kind of some way into it. It might be like, well, how are my data talking to each other? Or I don't have a system. Do I need a system? And it's just kind of like unpacking some of that we
yeah.
can and and like I say, what's one of the things that I really think about and I really believe it's about discipline. It's about the process because that's where you will win big. And the technology will always evolve. You know, there'll be the next AI coming along, and that all those things can magnify and accelerate things in a good way. But if you haven't got the basic, like your foundation right, then you'll be running through the wrong forest, basically. Oh, you're on mute, Rob. Never thought I'd hear myself say that.
I know, it's a bit about it. Just me. There has been an occasion in this planet when I couldn't talk, generally underwater, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, guys. I mean, it's fundamental that we literally do look at. I mean, Michelle's going through an evolution where she's going to be going literally from one going full time, so she'll be having to keep a much closer idea on that because it's not just now that she's doing things, you've also got salaries and you've got bills and you've got products to buy and you've got imports to do. And all these numbers, all this data is swirling around in the air. And if you can control it, it really will make a difference to how you see things.
And that's what, I've kind of tried to think about, well, what do I need to be doing? So once an hour a day, if not more, I try and do some things, but it usually ends up being, like you said, Elaine, jack of all trades,
Yeah,
getting stock, making sure that that's in this, that, and the other, but actually sitting down and, working on the data is something that as I said, I don't like it. So
yeah.
I don't
Okay.
do it as
So
often as I should.
yeah, well, so I love that self-awareness that you have. Some years ago, where my son was a baby and is now like 19 and fully making proper grown-up decisions, which I don't always agree with, but never mind. Then the next door neighbor would babysit him for an hour, and I would do an hour of GCSE math tuition with her daughter. And and her daughter could absolutely knew the maths, but just would freak out in exam conditions. So it wasn't about me teaching her maths. It was about giving her confidence to be able to do it and just be calm and think about it in a logical way, in a structured way. So that was, sometimes she wouldn't have necessarily done that if I didn't have an hour a week. So it was just having that kind of accountability buddy saying, hey, what are we doing this week? And kind of sitting with her and doing it. And in the I did a similar thing with Italian with another friend's daughter, where I was like, okay, well, tell me what you've learned in Italian. I'm not a fluent Italian speaker by any stretch of the imagination, but I knew just a little bit more than she did, Rob, to your point earlier. So again, it was just having that discipline to say, right, an hour a week, we're just going to sit down and see where you're at. And it forced her, in both cases, forced both of them to sort of actually do the stuff, like do the homework for our sessions together.
You guys think another excellent night, guys. Okay. Before we go, I have a nugget of wisdom for you because I'm watching the news about AI taking over the world and robots taking over the world. Okay. Here's Rob's wisdom nugget of things. Back in the 70s and 80s, we were children. Everyone was panicking that robots would take our jobs. Remember? Remember that? Robots are going to take our jobs, okay? All it is now, AI is the robot. Now, AI is not omnipotent. AI makes fundamental mistakes. Here's one of the mistakes it makes. It doesn't understand the mistake. So if it starts with a mistake, it just compounds that mistake and goes through because there's no human being in the middle to look at it logically. Okay. So what you're finding now is all those companies that laid off people years ago and over the last few years are re-employing them now because the AI is actually slowing down the company, not speeding it up. Once the AI has written the code, people don't trust it. So they're now getting engineers back, believe it or not, to check the code written by AI. It's comical when you think about it when we've gone full circle. So one of the things we've got to do, so for us as business owners, there's all this data, there's all this technology around us. We need to try and focus through the haze and look at what's actually going to help us. You know, it can help us, but it needs to be used sparingly, I'd say. I love tech, but it isn't the be all and end all of what we do on a daily basis.
People make decisions, not technology, not AI.
Yeah.
People make decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a case the other day of a company, they told the AI to delete something. They weren't specific, so it wiped their servers. 2 terabytes of data gone. And then it said, oops, I seem to have made a mistake. Was its response, which is quite funny when you think about it. That's hilarious. But this is why you need that human being there to go, should I be deleting everything or this one thing? And people let AI loose. But in the end, as my barrister friend said, it's not intelligent. It's just very, very quick at finding the answer. Okay. So, yeah. So,
Hey
thanks,
guys, I'm
Elaine.
really sorry I cut off before you finished, Elaine, but I did agree with what you were saying when you were saying
Oh.
it. So
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
and hopefully we'll speak soon.
You're
Yes.
right, guys.
Yeah, I
Elaine will
really
put all
enjoyed
the
that.
details into the Cofi
The
chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Elaine. That's
Yeah.
absolutely excellent. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it on a cold, dark February
All right,
evening.
guys, and this is recorded, guys, and this will go. Give me an hour to download it from the cloud, and I will put it online, and I'll put the link also back in so that people can go over it. And if Elaine said the details, I'll put all the details as well in the YouTube video chat, all the links and stuff to go out there as well, guys. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks a lot. Right,
Thank
you,
you.
Elaine.
Listen,
Thank you,
guys.
Elaine.
Listen. Thanks, Elaine. Listen,
Thank you.
have a good night, and same time next week.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.